Everyone laughed at him. Everyone mocked his father. But one boy refused to let humiliation define his family. They thought this old car and his family were worthless. They didn't know that sometimes, revenge isn't about anger. It's about transforming the impossible into something extraordinary. This car wasn't just metal and wheels, it was a symbol of the father's lost pride, the boy's unyielding spirit, and the chance to rewrite their story. What started as a dream, whispered in quiet corners and late nights, was about to become a mission, to turn humiliation into triumph, one rusty bolt at a time. The boy's journey began quietly, almost invisibly, as he spent long hours examining every dent, scratch, and broken part of the Thar, his hands tracing the rusted edges as if trying to read its story. He made careful sketches in a worn notebook, drawing ideas for how the car could become new again, imagining each curve polished to shine, each engine part restored to perfection. But the first steps were the hardest. Parts were missing. The engine groaned like it had aged decades overnight, and the cost of even small repairs seemed impossibly high for a family barely scraping by. Undeterred, he began visiting scrapyards, negotiating for discarded parts, learning to identify which could be salvaged and which were beyond repair. There were moments of frustration when a part didn't fit, when a tool broke, when the engine refused to start despite hours of work, but each small setback only fueled his determination. Nights were spent under dim lights, the boy poring over repair manuals and watching tutorials, hands greasy, clothes torn, yet his focus unwavering. Slowly, piece by piece, the car began to respond. The first time the engine coughed and sputtered to life, his eyes lit up with a mixture of disbelief and triumph. Polishing the body for the first time revealed glimpses of the potential brilliance beneath layers of neglect, and the sound of metal being reshaped under his hammer became a rhythm of hope. Along the way, neighbors whispered and watched, some scoffing at the futility of his efforts, others secretly admiring the sheer determination, though none dared to offer help. He learned to improvise, patching holes with scrap metal, crafting missing parts from unlikely sources, and using creative hacks to breathe life into the engine. Yet it was not only a physical struggle, but an emotional one. Late at night, doubts crept in. Fear of failure haunted him, and the weight of his father's humiliation pressed on his shoulders. Each challenge became a lesson, each minor victory a motivation to push further. As weeks turned into months, the transformation became undeniable. The car's body began to gleam under careful sanding and polishing. The engine roared with newfound strength, and the interior, once dusty and broken, slowly took shape into something inviting and new. The boy added personal touches that reflected both pride and creativity, a fresh coat of custom paint, carefully chosen trim, headlights shining like eyes that had awakened from sleep. The suspense grew with each stage. Would the engine survive the final test? Would the car start flawlessly after months of painstaking work? The community, once indifferent or mocking, began to notice subtle changes, the sound of working metal, glimpses of a polished fender catching the sunlight, and the boy's unwavering presence beside the Thar day after day. Even his father, though trying to remain reserved, watched secretly, pride and anticipation battling with years of quiet shame. As the last bolts were tightened and the finishing touches applied, the boy stepped back and covered the Thar with a cloth, tension thick in the air. Every frame of this transformation was charged with anticipation. Every glance, every whispered rumor among neighbors added to the suspense of what was. The moment of truth arrived. The whole neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. My hands trembled as I reached for the cover on the Thar, but my eyes were steady, filled with a confidence earned through months of sweat, sleepless nights, and sheer will. With one swift pull, the cloth fell away. There it was, a stunning, gleaming machine reborn from grit and hope. Sunlight danced off its polished curves, the engine purred with a powerful growl, and the tires shined like medals of victory. My father's eyes widened, then filled with tears of pride. He couldn't hold back. His hand on my shoulder said everything. You did the impossible. The neighbors who once mocked us now gasped in astonishment, their ridicule replaced by admiration. This was my quiet revenge, not through anger, but through courage and creativity. Slowly, my father and I climbed in. As we drove off, the camera followed, capturing the awe and respect we left behind. True victory doesn't come from vengeance. It comes from proving your worth, overcoming the impossible, and rewriting your own story. This car was more than just metal and wheels. It was honor restored, a dream realized, and a new legacy. As we drove into the horizon, the sunlight glinting off the hood, it was clear that with enough heart, you can turn any humiliation into a story of glory. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep chasing your own impossible dreams.